That morning I watched sparks fly as they welded a steel gate across the only road leading to my farm, and I swear my stomach dropped like I'd been kicked. Linda Harrow, president of the Cedar Ridge HOA, stood there in her pressed blouse and heels, smirking like she'd just conquered a country. "You can't use this road ever again," she shouted, and behind her, 2 board members nodded like bobbleheads. I thought it had to be a prank until she handed me a paper that said if I didn't join her HOA and pay monthly dues, I'd never get to my own land again. That's when I realized this wasn't some neighborly disagreement. This was extortion dressed up as community rules. My name's Miles Carter. After 20 years serving as a military engineer, I walked away from war's bureaucracy and politics. All I wanted was peace, quiet land where nobody told me how to live. I bought 60 acres in Redstone County, acres of pasture and timber, deed ironclad boundaries sharp. I thought I was free. What I didn't realize was the only road to my land passed through Cedar Ridge, a subdivision now strangled by Linda's HOA grip. Locals had used that road for decades without issue farmers, delivery drivers, even fire trucks. But when Linda took over, she saw dollar signs. To her, that road wasn't a lifeline, it was leverage. She strutted up my driveway with her clipboard like a queen issuing decrees, told me flat out join or be cut off. I laughed in her face, reminded her my property wasn't in Cedar Ridge. She didn't care. To her, rules weren't rules, they were weapons. And when she handed me that gold-stamped notice demanding compliance within a week, I felt anger boil, but also disbelief. How could anyone be this brazen? That night I sat on my porch staring at the gravel road, and I knew it looked harmless, but it was about to become a battlefield. The next morning the war began. Machinery clanged, metal screeched, and I saw workers planting posts welding steel across the road. Linda stood in the middle of it all, sipping iced tea, smiling like she was watching a parade. I stormed up, demanded an explanation. She tilted her sunglasses and said sweetly, "Since you chose not to join the board, voted to restrict your use of Cedar Ridge infrastructure." Infrastructure. That's what she called the only road to my home. My fists clenched. I called the sheriff, showed him my deed, begged him to stop this madness. He shook his head. "Technically, they own this stretch. You might have a case under easement law, but it'll take months, maybe years. Until then, it's gray." Gray. That was the law's way of telling me I was on my own. For a few days I improvised. I borrowed a dirt bike, hacked trails through the woods, skirting their subdivision just to buy supplies. My buddy from the service even flew in a helicopter once, dropping feed and fuel straight onto my pasture. Linda nearly choked when she saw that chopper hover over her manicured neighborhood. She filed noise complaints, threatened legal action. I laughed at first, but the letters kept coming. Certified envelopes stacked up, each one with her neat little signature like a dagger: noise violations, trespass accusations, civil threats. It was paper warfare, and she thought she could bury me alive under it. And then came the trench. The gate wasn't enough. One night I rolled up to see floodlights blazing and a backhoe tearing the road into a moat 12 feet wide, 4 deep. She called it community improvement. I called it sabotage. I shouted across the mud, but she just raised her glass in mock salute. "Find another way home, Miles." That's when something sparked in me. If she wanted to dig down, fine, I'd go deeper. Back in my shop, I unrolled blueprints I hadn't touched since the Army. Culverts, bypass tunnels, shoring methods. My specialty. I called in 2 old service buddies, guys who could swing a pickaxe as well as a rifle, and together we started digging under cover of darkness. Pick by pick, bucket by bucket, hauling dirt out, bracing walls with steel scraps, rigging fans for air. It was back-breaking, filthy work, but every scoop felt like defiance. Linda paraded around the gate by day, bragging that she'd checkmated me. She had no clue I was tunneling under her nose. But while I fought underground above ground, she tightened the screws. She patrolled the gate like a sentry-blocked delivery trucks, even turned away the county garbage service. Residents whispered at the store saying she'd gone too far. Still, the pressure crushed me some nights. I'd sit at my table staring at the stack of violations, wondering if maybe I was the crazy one. Maybe I should sell, walk away, let her win. Was I stubborn? Reckless? I felt the weight of every neighbor's silence pressing me into the dirt. For the first time, I wondered if I'd made a mistake. Then the storm came. Lightning split the sky, rain hammered the valley, and flashing lights pierced the night. An ambulance sat helpless at the trench my neighbor had collapsed from a heart attack. Paramedics begged for another route, and I hauled them across my rough trail on a dirt bike trailer. By the time we reached him, precious minutes were gone. He survived, but barely. That night I stood soaked in mud watching red lights vanish, and I swore this wasn't about my land anymore. Linda's power games had nearly cost a man his life. That was the moment my doubt burned away. I wasn't fighting for pride. I was fighting for survival, for community, for justice. 2 weeks later, my tunnel was ready. Reinforced beams, gravel bed ventilation humming from a salvaged generator. Not pretty, but strong. The night I tested it, my truck rumbled through headlights, bouncing off steel braces, walls trembling but holding. And then daylight broke ahead, and I rolled out onto the county road, past the gate, past the trench, past Linda's tyranny. I laughed out loud, adrenaline buzzing. For the first time in weeks, I was free. But freedom wasn't enough. I wanted her exposed. So I rigged cameras, recorded every angle, and at dawn, I drove straight through that tunnel again, emerging on the other side like a ghost. Linda arrived minutes later, clipboard in hand. She froze when she saw me leaning against my truck on the county road. Her jaw slackened. Her eyes darted. Then she spotted the faint mound of dirt where the tunnel mouth lay hidden. "No, no, no, no," she screamed, clawing at the soil. My cameras caught every second, and by noon the footage was online. The meltdown of Cedar Ridge's queen spread like wildfire. Her response? A lawsuit. The HOA led by Linda accused me of illegal tunneling under private property. I almost choked, laughing. Illegal tunneling. She made me sound like I'd built a subway system, but I knew better than to underestimate paperwork. Court meant time, money risk. Fortunately, I wasn't alone anymore. Neighbors stepped forward, donations poured in, lawyers volunteered. Even a retired judge sent me a note reminding me easement law exists for a reason. If your property is landlocked, the law protects your right of way. We filed a countersuit, harassment, obstruction, reckless endangerment. We had exhibits, the ambulance report, the fake violations, the trench footage, even internal emails leaked from her own board where she bragged about leveraging access until he complies. Exhibit D. Extortion in plain English. The day of court felt like walking into battle. Reporters outside, cameras flashing. Inside, Linda perched at the plaintiff's table, pearl necklace, gleaming lips pursed. Her lawyer droned about community integrity and painted me as a rogue, a danger. At one point, he even muttered eco-terrorist. The gallery snickered. Then my attorney, Rebecca Sloan, stood calm and sharp. She explained easement law like a scalpel, laid out the ambulance incident, the fake fines, the internal emails. When Linda took the stand, her arrogance finally betrayed her. Asked if she considered emergency access, she smirked. Irrelevant. We're a private community. The courtroom gasped. The judge's gavel thundered, but the damage was done. She had admitted she thought HOA bylaws outranked human safety. Witnesses piled on. The UPS driver testified, still grinning as he recalled Linda screaming at him for delivering packages. The neighbor held up a photo of his newborn daughter, born only because paramedics used my tunnel. His voice broke as he said, "If not for that tunnel, she might not be here." Silence fell heavy. Even the judge paused. By closing arguments, it was no contest. Rebecca's words cut clean. This isn't about bylaws. It's about abuse of power. The HOA weaponized a road, endangered lives, and tried to extort a man into compliance. The law does not support tyranny, Your Honor. It never has, and it never will. The judge leaned back, hands steepled, eyes burning into Linda. Finally he spoke. The actions of the Cedar Ridge HOA were reckless, malicious, and in violation of Mr. Carter's rights. This court recognizes his easement and grants permanent, unrestricted access to his property. The gate and trench are to be removed immediately at the HOA's expense. Furthermore, the Cedar Ridge HOA will pay $25,000 in damages, including attorney's fees. And Miss Harrow, you are personally fined $2,500 and removed as president, effective immediately." Linda's face collapsed. She sat frozen, drained of color, her lawyer slumped beside her. Around me, whispers swelled into cheers. I exhaled, a weight lifting after months of battle. Reporters swarmed as I left, shouting questions. One shoved a mic in my face. "How does it feel to win?" I glanced back at the courtroom doors, thought of Linda still sitting there. Throne turned to ashes and said simply, "It feels like justice." And here's the lesson I carried out of that courthouse: when someone tries to wall you in, sometimes the only way forward is to dig your own way out.